Pepino. Ajá. Buena combinación.
Ay, Dios mío. Manu Ginobili.
47-year-old Manu Ginobili still getting up and throwing it down. Welcome to Basketball Passport. I'm Leigh Ellis, your host, joined by Lakers general insider, Lakers lounge host, Anthony Irwin. Anthony, how you doing, man?
Fantastic. Everything is great, Leigh.
Nothing happening this week? Everything cool? Everything?
I can't think of anything off the top of the head. Everything's just fantastic. It's just, again, fantastic.
Well, this, as I mentioned, is Basketball Passport, where we look at what else is going on around the world of basketball. This is in addition to our weekly show on Sunday nights. It's primarily about the big stories and news in the NBA. You can follow us here at youtube.com/basketball passport or Lakers Lounge, as I mentioned there, which is Anthony. How many times a week do you go on Lakers Lounge here? A couple, at least 4 or 5, isn't it?
Far too many.
Far too many.
Yeah. Right now it's 5. And then, as we get closer to the trade deadline, and then if there's a big game or something like that, sometimes it stretches into 6 and 7. So yeah, far too many.
What about
people
just
hear and see way too much of me?
General drama surrounding the Lakers. What about that? Does that get a show, or it has to be personnel change?
One of my favorite bits online is somebody was like the Lakers of Los Angeles, the real Lakers of Los Angeles, right? Like instead of the Real Housewives of City, it's the real Lakers of Los Angeles. They just refuse to be normal.
Yes.
They just, it's just like, I don't know if anybody watching has ever had toddlers and you just like look back and you're like, can you just one time? And they're like, no.
Great for content, though. That's what it's all about. And Speaking of content, just before we get into it, I just want to pimp my calendar that I'm going to have out here available soon. Here it is, right, where you can see some of the courts that I've played on around the world. It's a great Christmas present. I think I have to send one to you. That one there is from the boys' payback in Rio de Janeiro. Of course, that one there is from Šibenik in Croatia. Let me just see where this one is. Oh, this is one of my favorites, Kalemegdan Park in Belgrade there. So these will be on sale. I'll put them up in my stories and social media and things like that, so that if you want a nice Christmas gift for anybody, they'll be available. But I'll send you one as a special treat. How about that?
Oh, thank you. No, like I said, I'll put it right behind me. Like I'm looking for, at some point I gotta, I want to swap out some books and stuff like that behind me too. So that'll be a great addition.
Well, today we are going to take a look at Zaccharie Risacher, the number 1 pick from the Atlanta Hawks, who had a career night last night down here in Atlanta. I was at that game against the Knicks. Always a fun atmosphere. I'll be also talking about some Tibetan monks who have got some game. Really fun clip went around social media in the last week or so. And then Joel Embiid also talking about his suspension. And then Anthony slipped in a little bit of the Lakers chat there from last night. Things started off great for the Lakers, cooled off a little bit in the last 4 or 5 games here or so. So we'll get to that. And then later on, we'll talk about an upcoming game I have in beautiful Buenos Aires, Argentina. I cannot wait for that one. So that's why we started with the Manu dunk off the top. He's out there dunking, and I'm going to be heading out there soon. But let's get into it here with Zaccharie Risacher, because the youngster is only 19 years of age. He's been thrown into the fire here with the Atlanta Hawks, coming off the bench the first 2 games, but then with so many injuries, Bogdanovich, DeAndre Hunter, a couple of guys sort of at his position, he's been thrown into the starting lineup, and it's been quite the baptism of fire. The shot has not been falling for him. He's had some really, really nice moves inside, but last night against the Knicks, the career high, as I mentioned there, with 33 points on 6 threes. Here's a couple of pick off.
Then the block
of Risacher. I mean, the confidence he had last night was just incredible. And the Hawks went to him. He had the defense, and playing really big minutes. Quinn Snider has talked a lot about just how he's putting him out there and riding with the ups and downs that you have to ride with for a rookie, because virtually no rookie is going out there and going to be smooth and get everything going. But Risacher last night, I mean, he's got such great hands. He's got really, really soft touch around the rim. He can put the ball on the floor. He's lanky. He's long. He gets out in transition. And as I mentioned, the shot hasn't been falling. He was only about 24% from three, but last night hit his first. And then he just kept on going, had 22 points at halftime. And I was just so impressed by the way that he played and the composure that he had. And just wondering, from what you've seen, and obviously haven't seen him in person yet, but what your thoughts are on how he's been playing and how he's been impacting games.
To those who watch and subscribe to the show and been listening to us weekly, I've been really kind of happy that he would have the opportunity to kind of come along slowly. And he's playing for a team that's going to be working towards a playoff berth again. And there's depth at his position above him on the roster, but you watch games like that. It's just not very many rookies that are able to do that this early in the season. Sometimes you look and it's like, okay, that rookie pops. And yes, you'll have some guys who look really good their first year and then they kind of fall off or whatever. Tyreke Evans kind of comes to mind, but the thing with Risacher is that, you mentioned it, the three can improve, but he's so good at getting to the basket. And the team that he played that way against, the New York Knicks, that's Tibbs. That's a Tibbs defense.
Yeah.
They are stacked with wings who you would think would slow him down eventually. I do still think that it probably behooves him and behooves the Hawks to bring him along slowly. And as guys get healthy, he kind of falls back into a role that makes a little bit more sense for such a young rookie. But also, it's hard not to watch him last night and kind of think maybe one of these veteran wings need to move. Maybe some of these guys, you need to open up minutes for him, because that was really impressive.
DeAndre Hunter, I think, has missed the last 5 games now, and his injury status is still somewhat cloudy. Quinn Snider, before the game yesterday, basically said, ask our medical team. He didn't have an update, and he didn't really give any indication as to when to expect Hunter back. Now, let's say he's out for another 3 or 4 games here, because injuries have plagued Hunter's career. If Risacher continues to have games like he did last night, I mean, it's going to be a real question as to what Snider does when Hunter comes back, because a veteran starter should slot back in there to the lineup. But Risacher is showing that again, last night was the best game. He's really struggled with the shot prior to that against the Celtics and the Wizards and teams like that. But if he gets it going, I mean, it's a really good problem here for Quinn Snider to consider. And I've been impressed with how Snider has spoken pre-game and post-game, because I wanted to ask him, I said, listen, he's got really nice hands. He can put the ball on the floor. The shot's not falling. Should you be maybe encouraging that? And, but he addressed it yesterday. He was asked by somebody else, and he said, listen, we just tell him, keep shooting. That's our trust we have in him. That's our belief. And it paid huge dividends there last night. Trae Young finished with 23 points, but Risacher, really gave him that boost there in the first half. And in addition to all that, he had 2 steals and 3 blocks last night. He's had some tough defensive assignments. He was on Tatum here on Monday night. Jordan Poole, who, it's kind of fun to make fun of Jordan Poole, but he's a good scorer, and he went right at Risacher. Kyle Kuzma did the same. And then last night, the Knicks went at him. There was a play in the fourth quarter. Karl Anthony Towns just drove straight into him, bullied him out of the way, but he didn't actually get him out of the way. What happened was Risacher held his ground, got the block, and it led to a transition basket, and the Hawks scored. And it was huge. And Towns was on the ground, looking for the ref, hoping for a whistle. A veteran normally sort of thinks this is easy money right now. Risacher stood his ground. And that's the other part of it. He looks young, he looks thin because he is only 19, but he's actually quite tough and he's quite resistant. And that's the other part of the ball, of course, that with Quinn Snider, what you're looking for is it's fine if you score 33, but you can't give up, 33 on the other end. And so I've just really been impressed with the composure, the strength, and the maturity for a guy so young.
Remember how, however many years ago, where every European player was tagged as soft? It's like every European came over and every NBA player just thought you could go right through their chest. And I think that that whole narrative really kind of swung when Pau Gasol won championships against Dwight Howard and Kevin Garnett in back-to-back years. But the thing that people always somehow forget is that guys like Risacher, guys like Luka, guys like, name international player X, they have been playing against full-grown men their whole life, like their whole professional lives. It isn't, some random game. There was a game, it was funny, I got a chuckle out of it because of how much focus has been on Bronny, but Mark Few from Gonzaga put his kid into a game. and some wing from Baylor just absolutely levels him on the way to the basket. Somebody said that they should call CPS on Mark Few for putting his son in that position. Yeah. But like, there aren't those kinds of underdeveloped players in EuroLeague. At the very least, like, yes, they may not be as skilled, they may not be as athletic, but they are still grown men. And so those kinds of players have been going at Risacher, going right into his chest for so long now that when Cat does it, he knows how to, move with the contact. It's kind of like a boxer, right? Like every boxer gets hit in the face. It's how you kind of roll with the punches that allows you to stay on your feet. And you learn that by playing against guys who are just more developed than you. And Risacher has really shown that.
Well, and the other thing is, it's quite easy for a rookie to be intimidated. I mean, it just is. Teams definitely try to take advantage of you. DeRozan was another one here with the Kings last week who saw him and was just licking his lips. I mean, but DeRozan does that with virtually anybody once he
especially this season, he's been good.
Yeah, once he gets into that little mid-range area of his. But again, Risacher sort of bodied him and gave back as well. And now look, DeRozan hit some shots. The Kings won the game, but it wasn't in any way just a humiliation for Risacher in the way that he played. And then last night, I think it was Josh Hart. I can't quite remember, but went in for a play. Risacher fouled him, clear foul, got to the line, but Hart, whoever it was on the ground. And Risacher just sort of was like, well, I'm not going over to apologize or anything like that. So, immediately understanding like, hey, man, this is the league. You can foul guys. It's okay to hit them and stuff like that. You don't have to go over and apologize or feel guilty because they're going to do it to you and they're going to try to do it. And so, overall, I mean, just a really impressive two-way game. And, Quinn Snider, who the Hawks have had a bit of a rough start here, a lot of injuries, a couple of losses to the Wizards, a couple of back-to-backers like that, and then they had the Celtics who cooked them by 30 on Monday night, bounced back really well, especially against the Knicks, because, anywhere the Knicks go, it's basically like a home game for the Knicks. And in a
Trae Young was making fun of him after the game.
Oh, exactly. I asked him about that too. And I think he misunderstood the question because I said, did you wave them off? Because I said to him, like, hey, how does it feel in Atlanta where half the crowd is Knicks fans? And he, does that get the juices going? And he said, yeah. And I said, did you wave any of them off? And I think he thought I meant, did you wave off the Hawks who were maybe cheering for the Knicks? And I was like, no, I meant, the Knicks fans waving them out. But so he had something to say there, but it was great. So, really, really fun watching Risacher. And I get down to every practice session as well, working on his shot, working on his free throws, working on his three-pointer. Really nice mechanics. I mean, it's going to come. It's just like, again, with anybody, he's still 2 or 3 years away from being a real, consistently impactful player. But the early signs are pretty good.
Yeah, what you don't want to be is you don't want to look like you don't belong right now, right? Like, and yes, there are players who like came along slowly, and Brandon Ingram famously was like a really bad rookie, and then obviously became a good NBA player. So like there are stories of players that make crack their way through, even if they aren't very impressive at the beginning. But for Risacher to just looks like he belongs out there while he's still a teenager. Wow, we know he's going to beef up eventually. And I also think, you mentioned how he didn't pick Josh Hart off of the floor. And I do think that we're going to start to see a real rivalry throughout the NBA with French players specifically and American players, because I think that's going to be a real thing here moving forward in international play.
Yeah, well, we got the message. I saw you pop it up there before. I'll put it up there again there from Beaujouin. France are a problem in FIBA in a few years. I mean, they're already a problem. They were just in the gold medal game. They nearly knocked off the USA. They were in the World Cup final last year in Manila. And now there's going to be a few changes. Guys like Fournier, I don't know if he's going to keep playing. He's probably certainly towards the twilight of his international career. But yeah, with obviously with Victor Wembanyama, Risacher, the Knicks actually have another guy too, Didier, and the other guy for the Washington Wizards, Bilal Koulibaly. I know we've talked about him. Another really strong performance. Came in a loss, but again, what you're looking for from these guys is just, are they competent on the floor? How tough are they playing? And there's something else about the French guys. They're all long and they've got these super long arms, and they can steal, they can get deflections, they're contesting shots. Because Koulibaly, man, he's the same, where it feels like every time the ball goes into the paint, he's got his hands on it, or he's certainly in there in your face.
Yeah, it almost sounded like you were trying to say competent in French, like
competent.
But no, I think it's like it's a really exciting thing, because I've been waiting for a country to stack NBA players, right?
Yeah,
every so often, like you'll have Germany when they had Dirk, and you'll have Slovenia with Luka, and you'll have Serbia with Jokic, and a couple other guys there. But like you look at France, and a couple of years from now, the next Olympic Games is in what, 3 years or so?
4. Yeah, 28.
Change.
Yeah.
So like you're looking at the beginnings of this core that I think is really going to push America in ways that no other country has before.
Well, that's the thing, I think that there are so many guys coming through that they are just, and they're coming at the right time, because, again,
Troy, that come out this year too, right?
Who, sorry?
Armel's brother. I'm blanking on his name, but he's like a rookie. He's going to be a rookie next year. He's going to be a lottery pick this year. Right. He's like another wing that they have. It's just crazy. It's absolutely insane.
Exciting times there. And Yabusele, of course, coming back from Real Madrid, playing for the Philadelphia 76ers, getting a lot of burn there. So very, very positive things happening with French basketball right now. And I will say, just before we end here, Big Tigger, the in-arena announcer for the Atlanta Hawks, absolutely loves saying Zaccharie Risacher. It's a great name to say.
It is. It's a tough name to spell, though. Can I just say, like, I always feel like I'm spelling it wrong. There's two C's, it ends in an IE, and then it's like Risacher, like you feel like you're writing researcher. I know that I'm typing it right. I know that because we've talked about them on basically every show. Like I know that I'm getting it when I'm writing all of these overlays and the headlines and stuff like that. I know I'm getting it right, but I still feel like I'm getting it wrong.
Yeah. That's the thing. It is. I'm the same. I've written his name now, 100 times at least, and I'm always double checking. Is it a? Because it feels like there should be an R in there between the A and the C in his surname.
Between the A and the C.
Yeah. Yes. And almost a double S too, just the way that it is.
Because there's
pronounced.
2 C's.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. But great stuff. So the next thing I wanted to talk about was something that was going around social media this week. I got a ton of people shared this with me. These are some Tibetan monks out there hooping. Just the sauce on that dude is unbelievable. The editing, the music, everything about it is incredible. Now, I'm trying to find out exactly where it is and if I can get access to it, because I've actually got a call scheduled with somebody from NBA Asia next week to see if I can, somehow get out there and make this happen, because I don't think there'd be anything cooler than dressing up like those guys and going out there and hooping. And again, these guys, legit ballers. I know there's been other videos over the years going around. This is maybe it's a yearly tournament. I'm not sure. I'm trying to find out information, but that looks like just so much fun out there in the mountains.
Can we see that again?
Yeah, let's do it.
I mean, the slow-mo helps and all that stuff too, but that's an incredible left-handed finish. Like, I don't know if it didn't look like he's left-handed,
No. That looked like a Kyrie Irving finish. You know how he elevates, he levitates, and then he just got the soft touch off the off the board there.
He had like a moment of zen up in the air. Like it was incredible. It was that was astonishing.
Yeah, but you know, like this is the thing to me. It's funny how the game. These guys obviously watch the game. They obviously play the game, and they put on their traditional wear and go out there and hoop. And the game is just an expression like that. It's a really artistic, creative,
outlet.
Yes, exactly. Outlet's the perfect description there because, when you're playing, it's so much of it is just on feel and on instinct. And they must have seen some Kyrie highlights, man, because otherwise I don't know how I don't know how good TV reception is up there in the mountains. But obviously it's good enough that they're able to watch and get inspiration from the end or from whoever they get it from everywhere.
It honestly also because of their customary garb, it reminds me of like when I was growing up in the early 2000s when everybody wore super baggy and one type stuff.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And like, you'd have kind of like this parachute that's running behind players because their super baggy shirts are behind them. Back then, like the popular thing to do was to put the ball inside your shirt and spin it around real fast. Like, it's so cool. It's so much flavor back to it because now you look at all these NBA players and they all wear like super tight jerseys. I remember at the end of Kobe's career, he was like one of the few guys who was still wearing actually baggy jerseys and shorts and stuff. And there's a funny clip of LeBron getting ready for an all-star game and they had given him really short shorts and he goes, no. These are for Bronny Jr. I'm LeBron Senior. I'm senior. I need bigger shorts. And that just everything about that. I love everything. I'm guarantee you I'm going to watch that clip another 3-4 times after I get off here.
Well, I hope I can get out there and play, man. I mean, that's exactly the sort of situation I'd love to go out and play with those guys and have some fun because they're in the traditional garb like you mentioned there, but they've also got Nikes on underneath. I mean,
unbelievable. Music also. Can we get that? Like I'm going to start using that for our intro.
Yeah, let's do it. That's great. So anyway, I'll keep you updated how that goes. If I can begin some conversations because it'd be certainly fun to get out there. Moving on to the next subject is something we talked about on Sunday night because it came through, I think, on Sunday, the news that Joel Embiid got into a little altercation with Marcus Hayes there from the Philadelphia Inquirer. Hayes wrote an article basically calling out Embiid and his lack of availability. And in that article, he mentioned Embiid's brother who passed away in a tragic car accident. He also referenced his son, basically saying how Embiid would use his son as inspiration. A lot of parents do, their child comes into their life and it's inspiring. But a lot of people, myself included, felt that Hayes crossed the line there by referencing his brother. I didn't feel that was necessary. I don't feel it added to the story, and it felt like it was more frustration on the part of the writer that Embiid was simply hadn't suited up this season, and there was apparently an altercation, a bit of a shoving match. And the NBA intervened and have suspended Joel Embiid for 3 games, which to me sounds like the NBA was kind of like, yeah, we get it. We get it a little bit. We don't want you doing that. You're a gigantic man. We don't want to open up the floodgates here and say, anytime a player is annoyed with a beat writer or reporter that they can physically get into an altercation with them. But I also feel that the NBA was kind of like, yeah, he didn't need to reference your brother. So hopefully, that will also send a little message that there has to be some decorum, not only in the interactions in the locker room, but how you write about people.
Maybe I've missed it, but I'm kind of surprised that we haven't heard of any kind of suspension for Hayes.
Yes.
As the employer there, and the editors who let that line through, like that's where if again, what Hayes was saying, I don't really have that big of a deal with. the central messaging. It was the messaging that was the problem. It was
right.
You could say Joel needs to be more available. He needs to get in shape. He needs to lay off the Shirley Temples. Like, those are all true things that are expected of an NBA cornerstone franchise player making the amounts of money that Joel is making. But once you mention family and you make it that kind of personal, you open yourself up to Embiid taking it that wrong way or the right way. Frankly, he got the implication there and he was pissed off by it. So the only question I have here is, like, you're right. I do think the league was kind of saying, by way of this only 3-game suspension, yeah, that was wrong of him to do. We also don't want you shoving reporters. But how many NBA players, like, with the relationship between media and NBA player now as it is, how many players are kind of looking at people who write bad things about them or criticize them, who are going to say, like, Joel Embiid only got 3 games. Like, I could go with a week off,
Yeah, load managing without load managing, sort of.
I mean, I think I saw that it's going to cost Embiid about $1 million because of the amount of money that his game checks, are good for.
Yeah,
but I don't know if I'm an NBA player, I might be looking at this being like, I'm really sick of that Anthony Irwin guy.
Yeah,
it's a good thing I live in Austin. I don't have to worry about this as much, but yeah, that was the only kind of concern that I potentially have here, is that other NBA players are going to look at the precedent being set here and being like, okay, if that's all it's going to take, if that's all I'm going to get, my hammy's kind of tight anyway, let it rip.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things. If there was another incident, I think, again, you wouldn't want to speculate on what might happen or what could happen. But if there was something, a trend or a pattern forming here, the NBA would obviously look into why and try to, I think, change access and who gets it and how it happens. But I said this on Sunday night. I think it's so important, that relationship between media and players and the locker room to be open, and the locker room to be a place where you respect the players and they in turn respect the reporters. If you're waiting there for someone and they can see it, if they don't want to talk, they should just say, I don't want to talk, or no. But to stand there sometimes, and I've been in that situation where you're sort of standing with someone and they just completely ignore you and then walk off. It's like, listen, all I'm looking for is just an acknowledgement of, like, do you want to talk? If just say, I don't want to talk. I'll never say to someone, no, you must talk to me.
Yeah.
But then again, as well, when you're talking, the only questions should be regarding the game and the play and tactics and style and all that. Nothing about, beyond that has no business being in there. And so, I think that's what it comes back to here with what Hayes, he seemed to just throw something in there that was inflammatory, and it hit the mark, because it got Embiid to respond. And look, Embiid, I think we saw some other frustrations with the Philadelphia media he expressed earlier than that, only a day or so before he was being called out. So, that relationship can be tense at times, but we have to have a little bit of separation.
Still needs to be productive.
Yes, exactly. But it also has to remain. That's the other thing. It is very, very important to remain available, because if you can't, the amount of conversations already I've had this season, that you just catch a little bit, you have a chat with someone, whether it's a player or an agent or someone associated with either of the teams. That's how you find out information, and that's how you find out what's going on. And some of those things should just stay completely private, off the record, but you're allowed to also, express some of the information that was discussed if it helps, and it's not, of course, anything that's, top secret or highly confidential.
This just in from Shams. Tyrese Maxey is expected to miss a couple of weeks with a hamstring issue. Just an absolutely brutal start to the season for Philly. They bring in Paul George, who, by the way, got booed in LA. Couldn't figure out why he was booed. It's like, dude, you didn't do anything while you were a Clipper, and then on top of it, you left in free agency after whining about your contract all year. But you have this with Maxey. You have Embiid, who is due to make his return next week after this suspension is up. Paul George is now back. But I believe they sit at 1-7.
Yeah.
Right now, or it's just an absolutely like the worst case scenario start for Philly that doesn't feature like a season long or a season ending injury.
Yeah, but it's across the league right now as well. We've lost Banchero for a while. The Hawks, I mentioned, of course, have been beaten up. Ja Morant left the game, I think, last night.
Last night with a hammy.
Yeah, I haven't seen any update from him, but his was a different one. I mean, I've talked about this before with Ja Morant. I absolutely love watching him play, but the father in me continually is like, oh my God, go easy, take it. Be careful. Don't jump so high. Don't run so fast. Like you're going to hurt yourself. And last night was a case of that. He was going up for an alley, and who was it who sort of?
I think it was Coloco.
Yeah, nothing.
Coloco bumped him a little bit. Yeah. on the waist.
He bumped him, but again, it was more Ja's ability to leap so high. He
hit his head on the backboard.
Yeah, and Coloco was just kind of like, oh, I didn't, so there was nothing intentional there, but oh man, I feel that with Ja Morant. By the way, what about those 2 360s he had this week? Oh my God, what an incredible player!
Those 360s to the Tibetan monk music.
Yeah. And that's it. Yeah, that's a great idea.
Because that was. It's not just a 360. It's not just that it happened in a regular game, but in both of them, he switched hands.
Yeah,
or had to like transfer. The first one, he switched from right to left while he was doing it. He went up with his right. He finished with his left. The second one, he was getting ready to absolutely hammer one home on somebody, and then again switches in midair and hits it with the left. It was just like those are the 2 coolest layups I've ever seen.
Oh my God! I mean. That the first one for me, just the slow-mo of that, because you never see the change of hands like that and the switching of, the momentum where it goes like that. Usually guys try to kiss it off the glass, but he just did it, and the slow-mo is just beautiful. Yeah. So, well, while we're on the Grizzlies, let's talk about the Lakers, because obviously those 2 teams played last night, and the Grizzlies came away with the victory in what was a contentious result, I guess, for the Lakers. They drop another one here, and after the game, JJ Redick basically called out everyone except for LeBron. He said LeBron's doing great. LeBron's our best player, and he's playing at a high level, and that was kind of it. So you, as the Lakers insider, go for it, man. Vent away. What are you feeling right now?
Well, coming into the season, you knew that the roster wasn't good enough, because it's a roster that got swept out of the Western Conference Finals 2 years ago. It was a gentleman sweep to the Denver Nuggets last year. And then over the summer, like, not only did they lose Taurean Prince, lose Spencer Dinwiddie, who, like, fine, Spencer's at the end of his career. Taurean Prince is a good, like, 15 to 20 minute a night player. And he had become kind of the butt of jokes in LA because of Darvin Ham's infatuation with him. But like, you do need to replace NBA players when they go in and of itself. But then on top of it, if you do have aspirations at winning a championship, because you have LeBron James, because you have Anthony Davis, they are in their prime still somehow. But no, they didn't add another veteran to this group, and you came into the season and they were always an injury away from having to play some guys at the end of the bench who just aren't NBA players right now. And so you kind of fast forward here, and the guard combination with Austin Reeves and D'Angelo Russell has always been a fine combo for the regular season, but in the postseason, they're going to turn into pumpkins, or that combination is going to turn into a pumpkin. And to start this year, JJ Redick is relying on Austin and D'Lo in the starting group and in a ton throughout the game. But what it's led to is D'Angelo Russell is dribbling now less than he ever has in his career by a pretty wide margin. His dribbles per touch is way down, and he's not thrilled about it. You can kind of start to watch him check out. He's been in trade rumors basically since he's been a Laker again after they traded him the first time around. Yeah. It's just a situation that is becoming more and more toxic. And JJ Redick finally last night had enough. They lost to the Memphis Grizzlies, gave up 131 points. Russell only played 22 minutes, and Redick was asked why, and he said he wasn't competing, and he was falling back into old habits. And I wanted to give Gabe Vincent a try. Gabe Vincent, too, by the way, was called out from the game prior for playing 18 minutes and not attempting a shot. JJ said that it would be nice to get a guy to play 18 minutes and actually get a shot up. So JJ's getting frustrated. And the thing about Ham was he was always a good soldier. And he was always, I believe in this team. I believe in this organization. I believe in this front office. But I don't think JJ is wired quite that same way. If he has an opinion, he's going to give it. And I think he kind of recognizes now, if he didn't before, that this roster isn't good enough. And he's trying to get everything that he can out of the roster that he has. But it is reaching that kind of breaking point where, like, I just saw there's a report apparently out there that the Chicago Bulls are going to start shopping Zach LaVine. And
when did you read that? 4 years ago?
Yeah, right. It is indeed a day that ends in Y. But I was told earlier this year, with LaVine healthy again, just keep an eye on the Lakers with LaVine, because they checked on him last year. Then he got the surgery to keep himself out of Detroit. This year, I do think that it might be heading in a direction here where the Lakers finally just kind of consolidate this backcourt of a bunch of fringe NBA players and just say, screw it. We're going to see how this works out with LaVine.
But theoretically, let's say they go for LaVine. What's the deal for the Lakers? Who are the Lakers giving up to get him?
It would be Vando, it would be Russell, definitely, in his expiring $18 million contract. They didn't pick up the team option on Jalen Hood-Schifino.
Yes.
So his contract is now expiring. That's another $3 million that you can add to it. And then if you add like either Rui Hachimura or some combination of Gabe Vincent and Jared Vanderbilt, now you can kind of get to that point where you have enough contract money going out that you could bring in Zach LaVine. But it is a lot of rotation players going. It kind of helps the Lakers in a way that, like, Vando hasn't been healthy, so it's kind of like, look, if you want him, you can have him. I think for the Bulls, I think they would take just about any combination of expiring money and maybe some draft capital to just get out of the business of Zach LaVine. I think both teams are just kind of heading towards an increasingly untenable situation where both the Lakers and the Bulls kind of just say, all right, enough is enough. Let's figure out the bare minimum that we need to execute this trade and kind of go from there.
The Bulls would have to start with a pick though too, wouldn't they? The Lakers got two, haven't they? They can deal, and they would. The Bulls surely would. Again, they want to make the deal as much as anyone. But if you are going to rebuild, then you want that number one, first round pick coming back. Would the Lakers give that up for LaVine? I mean, they'd almost have to, I think. Because otherwise the Bulls can say, well, we'll just sit here as well. Then we won't make it. We won't make a deal because they're not going anywhere. Themselves.
For the Bulls, they're kind of frustrated because they're winning.
Well, that's right. Yeah, it's winning at the wrong time.
Right.
But certainly this is not the team that they, that they're going to want to go ahead with. They're going to want to try to see what is out there for guys like him and Vooch and hit the reset button there. So we will see what happens there. We should mention actually, Anthony Davis did not play last night too. So defensively, that was a big hole the Lakers couldn't fill, and he's obviously been very good to start the season. But as always with Anthony Davis, I don't know if he's only out for one game or not, but it feels like he's he's perennially I don't know. He's always perennially day to day, so once the season starts. So moving on here to the destination for this week. And normally at this point, I talk about a city that I've been to, but instead, I'm actually going to talk about a country that I'm going to in about 6 weeks here, because I'm going down to Peru for Christmas with my wife and her family. And then I'm going to zip over to Buenos Aires in Argentina, which I have been to before. Somehow it was 25 years ago I was there. It feels like it was about 5 years ago, but I was down the bottom. I went through Patagonia from bottom to top. It's a fascinating country, and Argentines are known in the culinary world for two big reasons: red meat and red wine. And I can honestly say they live up to that reputation. A couple of times when I went out for dinner, they bring out, the big tray with all the chunks of meat, and you pick which one you want, and they go and cook it. And then they bring it to your table on a plate. It's just a piece of meat with a tiny little red pepper on top, and that's it. And then a glass of Malbec, and it's the most succulent meal you can possibly imagine. It is incredible how well they do red wine and red meat. So I don't eat much red meat these days, but I'm going to put that to the side for 3 days. Yeah.
Yeah, but Malbec. I remember the first time I had a Malbec. We were with one of the kids I grew up with is from Argentina, or was from Argentina, and we were kind of hanging there with his family, and I was in that like late teen stage where you like families start to give you a taste of wine, and like when I would have a glass of wine with my family before, it would be like my grandpa really liked Burgundy, right, and my dad really liked Cab. And it was just it was fine. It's the first wine that you grow up with or whatever. But I remember the first sip I had of Malbec, and I was like, this was an option.
Yeah.
And so I introduced my family to Malbec, and it to this day is my mom's favorite type of wine.
Yeah.
It's just, and you're right. Absolutely right. They get red wine, they get red meat. I wish I was Argentine.
Yeah, it's one of those things that countries are known. You could say obviously pasta or pizza for Italians, and they're very good at that. But there is something about the steak in Argentina that is just incredible. In fact, when I was in Brazil in March this year at the churrascarias they have there, where you go around and they have all sorts of meats and everything, and you just sit down at your table and you put up the little flag. Green means serve me, red means I'm cool for right now. And they come over with all the steak and chicken and chicken hearts and everything you can imagine. And honestly, without doubt, in Brazil, Argentina's biggest rivalry, everywhere I went, the best meat they brought at the churrascarias was the Argentine steak. And the Brazilians would even admit it. But they would always admit it in a sort of like, don't tell anyone this. Don't let anyone know that I'm saying that the Argentinian steak is the best, because it is and it was. And so I'm very, very excited. So I'm going to have a couple of runs down there. And the first one is going to be Friday, December 27, around 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm going to be working too with a really cool group from the La Copita basket crew. They run there continually. They have huge events, and it's a really big meeting place for lots of families. Everyone's going to come out. So that's Friday at December 27, and this is the chord I'll be playing.
The Heat have gone cold. Ginobili on the finish, flushes it with the left hand. Here's Harden. Ginobili's on him. He's got shot. What a play by Ginobili! Knocked it away. San Antonio wins on the shot clock. Ginobili steps back, tries a three. Manu Ginobili, 14 points off the bench. Seconds, Ginobili. Oh, he backs it in. They count it, and Argentina wins.
Yeah, so that's the court there. Now, that's actually about a couple of years old, that court. They've repainted it, but they've still got the Manu logo there in the middle, the mural of him. I was saying to my wife just yesterday, I was talking about this, Manu in Argentina is not Messi, but he's not far behind either. Mm-hmm. He is absolutely loved and adored by everyone in Argentina. Now, he's not from Buenos Aires. He's from an area called Bahia Blanca, which is on the coast. His family's a huge basketball family. So he doesn't actually spend all that much time in Buenos Aires. I mean, even in Argentina right now, he's still a consultant there with the Spurs. Mm-hmm. But that's the court I'll be running at, as I mentioned, and that'll also be thanks to Wooba, this basketball pickup app that I'm working with. I've got a brand new pair of Steph Curry 12s to give away. So I'm really excited for what's going to happen there. I've also got some jerseys. Anyone who's been following me knows that everywhere I go, I have jerseys to give away, Hardwood Classic, Mitchell and Ness jerseys. I'm going to have at least 2 or 3 of those as well to give away. And because it's in the Southern Hemisphere, it's going to be summer. just after Christmas. So it should be a long, hot night of basketball activity and fun. And then I don't know if I'll eat I see, the thing is, I don't know if I want to eat it before or after, because if I eat it after, it's impossible to go to bed with a big belly of red meat.
I always find a way.
Yeah, so really I wanted to talk about that now and let people know, if they're listening, to tell their friends, family, if any of your Argentine friends or connections are interested, come on out, because as I say, La Copita Basket, who I've been talking with on Instagram, it should be a really fun night with lots of activities and games and people coming out. There'll be music and DJs and everything. This could be, I say could because who knows exactly what's going to happen, but it could be the biggest event that I've really been a part of and, sort of initiated and organized, because you never really know who's going to show up at these things. I've had a couple of ones like in Dubrovnik where 3 people showed up. I thought there was going to be 20, and 3 showed up and 2 were injured. Yeah. So, you take the highs and the lows, of course. But this one is going to be really, really special. And but basketball in Argentina, man, it's huge. Going back just to off the top of the show, we had that dunk of Manu Ginobili. Now, the reason that happened was because that golden generation team just celebrated their 20th year since they won the gold medal in Athens. And so they played a game out there in Argentina, and Manu was throwing down a dunk. So I have a quick trivia question here for you. Just wondering if you can name, you should be able to name 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players who played on the Argentine 2004 Olympic gold medal team.
All right. So Manu and Scola.
Yep.
Yeah. Oberto? Fabrizio Oberto? Was he on that team?
Yes, that's Fabrizio Oberto. Yeah, that's 3.
Let's see. Who else was there?
Another former Piston and Raptor. Milwaukee Buck.
I'm trying to think. Oh, no. Was Nene?
No, he's Brazilian. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the extent of I'm going to kick myself for some of the names you're going to say here.
Carlos Delfino.
Oh, yeah. See?
Yeah, Carlos Delfino. Another guy had really cool hair, really long hair. I think he played for the Bobcats. And doesn't have a Latin name at all. More a German type of name.
I don't know.
Walter Herrmann.
Oh.
And then
I can remember him.
Yeah, and then there's a former Bull and Raptor, and maybe went to the Kings as well. You'll remember his name when I say it.
Yep.
Andres Nocioni.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It always threw me off. I always thought he was Italian.
I mean,
and then I was going to say about Delfino. I'm just going to keep throwing my parents under the bus. But I remember Delfino was on like a handful of teams over the course of his career. I think the Lakers, I forget which team he was playing for, but the Lakers were playing against him. And my mom was like, "Who's that guy?" And my dad was like, I think his name was Carlos Delfino. She's like, Delfino? Yes, he is of the fine.
Yes.
Yes. His name loosely translates to like Delfino, of the fine.
Yeah, the fine. Well, he was a handsome man. No question about that. Yeah. I remember him because he started on the Pistons and then Brian Colangelo picked him up to the Raptors for a couple of second-round picks. Mm-hmm. And I saw him, for Argentina. And when he came to the Raptors, I was like, I'm getting a Delfino jersey, because I was really excited.
So was my mom.
yeah, exactly. We have something in common there. But by the time his career ended there in Toronto, man, I was like booing him. He was in the playoffs against the Magic. He just couldn't hit a shot. Yeah. And I was so frustrated with him. But I always thought he's one of those guys like, man, he's super talented, but he came off the bench most of his career and, bounced around a couple of teams, couldn't quite find that role. But, he's still one of those guys that I'm like, I think Delfino, could have been better than he was. I saw some talent there and potential.
I definitely, he's one of those guys that like would be really valued in this league, this era, because like he was a 3-and-D. Well, he didn't play too much defense, but he was a really good shooter.
Yeah.
And given how teams value shooting at this point, he would, 'cause he had a really nice looking jumper. I don't think he probably shot on volume at the way that teams shoot, now. But if you basically told him like, hey, go stand in the corner or go run baseline to baseline or corner to corner, I think he would be a really solid functioning wing in today's game.
Oh, no question about it. I mean, the shooting mechanics were beautiful. He could get to his spot. He had range. He could handle the ball. You wouldn't want him having, too many possessions, but he could run the offense in the backup role if he had to. And I think one of those guys who was always just better for Argentina too, a bit like Fournier. Like when he puts on that Alba Celeste jersey, it's like, man, he's a different player. And that's where you fall in love with guys. The guys who play so well for their country, and you want to somehow unlock that in the NBA, but it's just completely different game, different styles, different role, different teammates, and that's the way it goes. But Carlos Delfino, man, and that Argentine team winning the gold medal in 2004 was huge. They talk about it. Yeah. Funnily enough, I think it was only still last year in Manila when Scola was still playing for the.
Yes.
No, actually, no, because they didn't make it. Actually,
I think I saw him in FIBA.
Was it? Yeah, I know. I know the last tournament he played anyway, wherever that was. I think it was Tokyo because I don't think they actually qualified for the World Cup, Argentina, because they're sort of lamenting the fact that 20 years later now they don't even make tournaments, which is an indictment because. If you were that good 20 years ago, you should be certainly amongst the medalists, in contention these days. But yeah, they're tough players though, the Argentines. Prigioni, of course, where was he? He was the Knicks and the Clippers and the Rockets, I think, in the NBA. One of those crafty old dudes.
Another guy I could have swore was Italian.
Well, but that's the thing is there's a ton of Italians in Argentina. Like Ginobili's family is Italian. Prigioni, Delfino, all those Italian-sounding names do have Italian origin and history. Nocioni's another one, and a lot of them played in Italy too. So there are some big connections there. But
right. It wasn't that wrong.
Yeah, there's also another court that I'm going to be playing at on the Saturday, December 28, which is La Boca Juniors football arena. It's right next to that arena. I'm trying to still find out some details about that to even know if the court is still there. The court is still there, just sort of what shape it's in. A couple of guys are checking that out for me. But yeah, so if anyone is going to be in Argentina, December 27 or 28, wants to come out and get a run and have some fun, head on out to La Copita Basket, the Manu Court. I'm not going to give you the address because you just need to Google it and you'll find it's in the big park there. But hopefully it's going to be a really cool, big event, and maybe even, obviously you can't bring a souvenir back of steak, but if I could, I certainly would.
I was going to say Argentina, the Argentine sports apparel, to me, across all the sports, is the best looking sports apparel that you can find. It's just that light blue. They have the thick white blue and line stripes going down the jerseys. I even love their logo, the AFA logo.
Yes,
is just beautiful as well. Obviously it also helps that they tend to have really good players in those jerseys, right? Messi and Manu and the team that won the gold medal and stuff like that. But to me, it's like, I don't even know who would come in second in that regard. For best looking kits across all of the sports that they play.
Well, Brazil's are always pretty sexy too. The yellow and the blue there.
The Brazilian yellow. The Lakers keep trying to move further and further, like closer and closer to that banana yellow. And it's like, stop. Like that's only for Brazil. That's it.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's it. And so if anyone does have any questions or comments, who wants to know more, hit us up at our beautifully easy to remember email address. Nothing in there this week for us so far, but it is basketballpassportpod@gmail.com. If you've got any questions or comments, you want to send them to us, and we will address them. There's no question about that. Maybe on our Thursday show or maybe on our Sunday night show, which again is a look back at the current NBA news and stories. That usually goes live around 8 p.m. Eastern. give or take an hour. Just depends on what's happening with families and life and stuff going on. But it'll take place Sunday nights, and then we'll be back here next Thursday. So thanks to everyone who has joined us. Thanks for everything about the Lakers there, Ann. I know it was a bit of a tough night there for you, but you got through. So great to see you, and I will see you on Sunday night.
Safe travels, everyone.